What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some great information to go over, but before we do, go ahead and hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new, as we have daily content and also daily live streams for you guys. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it, and we're starting off with something that shouldn't be a surprise, but I'm surprised that more sites aren't talking about this when it comes to the Nintendo Switch versus the PlayStation and Xbox systems that have recently launched. But once again, not a surprise, but it's interesting to see how it's being reported. Now, shout outs to Nintendo Life for the beat on this one. So the news has been revealed that the Nintendo Switch hardware, this is the Nintendo Switch Lite and also the regular Nintendo Switch, sales have actually beat out the Xbox Series X and S and also the PlayStation 5 combined. Yes, combined, take them all together, Nintendo Switch still sold better than it in the Q1 of 2021. Now, here's the thing with this, guys. There is a pretty big component shortage that is affecting the PlayStation 5 and also the Xbox series of systems, and that same component shortage could hit the Nintendo Switch sometime this year, but we don't know what countermeasures Nintendo has in place. I know Furukawa has talked about it before and has stated that they're working hard to make sure that they do have supply, because Nintendo is set for a huge 2021, especially in the second half. The first half has already been pretty good with the number of smaller end titles to somewhat bigger end games. Miitopia obviously just launched. Monster Hunter Rise was a huge one, but we've got a lot more with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. We also got Miitopia just dropped. There's also Mario Golf Super Rush that's coming out. So there's been quite a bit of stuff to keep the demand for Nintendo Switch hardware very strong, and Nintendo wants to be keen on making sure that they have enough systems to supply that, because it's been rumored, if you've been watching the channel, that there is plenty of big name releases that are going to be coming out in the second half on top of what we've already got. Now, according to a brand new report by Ampere Analysts, which is highlighting the Nintendo Switch hardware sales through Q1 at 5.81 million, up 12% on the equivalent period in 2020, or year on year. Now, the PlayStation 5's two iterations have sold 2.83 million in the same time frame, with the Xbox series of systems at 1.31 million in the same window. Now, if you look at it, this is interesting to see, because Microsoft is probably the most affected here. I mean, the fact that the Xbox series of systems is sold out and they only sold 1.31 million in the quarter says that there is a severe lack of Xbox components in terms of what they need, because 1.31 million is not great for a system that is supposedly sold out, or that, not even supposedly, that is sold out, or it's very rare to see Xbox Series S and X depending on where you live in the world. Sometimes you can see the Series S a little bit more, but the Series X is very hard to find, and they only sold 1.31 million in that first quarter. That is very low. So it looks like Microsoft is getting the short end of the stick here, or the certain internal components that they use for the two different systems, since they do have a pretty big configuration gap between them, is harder to secure compared to what the PlayStation 5 is, which makes sense, because the PlayStation 5, there's only one separate thing between the two models. It is a Blu-ray drive that's in there. Outside of that, they're exact same. But it's also interesting to see how none of the major websites were really reporting it that way, which before in the past you usually get like, oh, Wii U gets crushed by these other systems and it outsells it combined, it's selling so bad, blah blah blah. But a lot of them reported it as, oh well, the PlayStation 5 outsells the Xbox series of systems, and kind of just left out the Nintendo Switch, or just kind of put it in a little bit of a footnote. So it's interesting to see how it's being reported, but at the same time, it doesn't surprise me that it's being reported that way, just because it's the Nintendo Switch. People kind of see it differently. It is whatever it is at that point. But I would like to say it's pretty cool to see the Nintendo Switch continuing to sell very strong, and these sales are going to pay dividends, especially with Nintendo and their R&D, what they're doing for the next Switch system, what developers want to put on the system. I mean, the only reason why we're getting some of the big games like the Monster Hunter and the Monster Hunter Stories 2 and all this different stuff that's coming over, a lot of the remasters and ports or remakes and all that stuff, is because the system is selling so well. Without these type of huge sales here, we wouldn't be seeing the support that it even gets, and it doesn't get as much support as the other systems that are selling far less. So it's good to see that. But what's going to be the more interesting thing, because based off of all of this, Nintendo has a bona fide hit, right? They have something that is just taking the world by storm. So what that means is that they can develop, when it comes to the next system, they can put way more money, effort, research, and time in making this system even more. They can take a bit more risk with it because they know that they have a winning combination. They have a winning strategy, and they're not going into this blind. So that's why I'm very excited to see what Nintendo has planned next and what they're going to do with Nvidia, with the hardware and everything. So very exciting there. Very good to see the sales here as well. And of course, interesting yet unsurprising in terms of the way that it was being reported and how people just kind of brushed it aside. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this with the Nintendo Switch sales, Xbox and PlayStation? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here. It looks like we have a little bit of a rumor when it comes to the MIA version of Genshin Impact, the free-to-play action RPG that was announced quite some time ago for the Switch and is nowhere to be found. So the popular free-to-play title action RPG Genshin Impact, which was confirmed for the Nintendo Switch last January, so it's been quite a while. Where's this game at? Well, now, according to a Genshin report, a Twitter account focused exclusively on the coverage of Genshin Impact. I feel bad for this guy, but anyway, in terms of news and leaks, the Nintendo version of the game should be finally arriving at some point this year, despite the supposed issues with weaker hardware. Now, in a follow-up tweet, they did suggest that the game might get pushed back even further and could end up being a Switch Pro exclusive, which is the rumored newer model of the Nintendo Switch, which that just seems weird. Why would you lock it to there? But hey, let's talk about this here. So you guys can see the tweet right there, this Genshin report, he talks about it as well. So you have to also make sure that you keep in mind, there's a few different things that Nintendo Life also pointed out here, and I want to echo these statements as well. There is not an official statement when it comes to the status of the Nintendo Switch version at any point. You know, they haven't talked about it in a while, so it could be canceled. Maybe it is Switch Pro, maybe it's coming some other time. I mean, I don't know at this point. So this is definitely a rumor. Now, also, DualShock mentions that this isn't the first time there's been rumors about the Switch version of Genshin Impact having some delay due to technical issues or problems. Previous setbacks apparently tied to the microtransaction implementation and other problems such as the eShop compatibility, which, you know, the eShop can be a little bit interesting when it comes to how you purchase microtransactions, how that works. There's a lot of technical stuff that's in the background that we don't really hear about too much, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Now, also, the game is available on many other platforms as well. The PlayStation 4 version, obviously you have PC, you have mobile, and if you look at the PS4 version of the game, that has experienced a number of performance and stability issues, which is being believed to be linked to poor optimization rather than just the weaker hardware, which I do remember when it comes to that. And the developers of this game, they're far more, I would say, competent with mobile game development, more so than PlayStation 5 and also PlayStation 4 and PC and everything. But yes, the PS4 version did have a number of technical issues, and there's no way that it would, based off of what we've seen on that platform, you know, if there was an optimization being done to the best or the fullest. But game development isn't easy, so it's not like I blame them for all the different issues this game might or might not have on different platforms. As long as they're doing their best to kind of make sure that they address those or eventually talk about it or fix it, which I think that they've released multiple updates when it comes to the PlayStation 4. So this is an interesting case, but we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with Genshin Impact on the Nintendo Switch. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this report here, this rumor? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, we're going to discuss just briefly about Immortals Fenyx Rising and how this game is doing. Now, we originally thought that this game kind of flopped out there, but it seems like it's doing better than some would expect, but not on all the different platforms. The Nintendo Switch version in particular is having a lot of success. Ubisoft even going as far as saying that it's an evergreen title. So here's what one of the executives at Ubisoft had to say about the sales of Immortals Fenyx Rising. Quote, Immortals Fenyx Rising, our new IP, continues to see healthy sell-through as the game benefits from one of the highest community sentiments a Ubisoft game has ever had. It has all it takes to become an evergreen title, especially on the Switch, where it continues to broaden Ubisoft audience reach. Now, he also mentioned about Just Dance performing very well and how they're doing a big part when it comes to the Switch with that. And if you look at like Amazon bestsellers, Just Dance is like a top seller for the year on the Nintendo Switch platform. So it's very interesting to see maybe what will happen. I know Nintendo Everything spoke with the directors of the game and said that they really would like to see a follow-up or more on the franchise in the future, but I think that the whole evergreen status of this game is going to be what makes it become a franchise or not. The game didn't have the sales for them to automatically just say, okay, we're going to go ahead and just start greenlighting a sequel right away. It didn't sell that good enough to do that. I think if they kind of prioritized the Nintendo Switch version a bit more, they had a bunch of versions of the game, but if they just prioritized the Switch version of it, I think it could have been optimized a bit better. It could have been put in more in terms of the marketing, and I think it could have done a lot better at launch. This game sold a considerable amount on Switch after the original launch. It did okay. It probably did best on Switch at launch, but when the price started to drop, that's when Switch owners started to say, okay, I'll check it out, you know? And I don't think PlayStation or Xbox owners really checked it out, whether it was not on sale beginning 60 bucks or it was cheaper. They just said, we're not really interested in it. And of course it came out during, you know, right around the Assassin's Creed time and all that. And that sold like 10, 12 million plus like day one on PlayStation and Xbox systems. So that's what they were playing. So it makes sense that it had a lot bigger or far-reaching type of impact on the Switch system over the other platforms. But we'll see what goes down in the future. I played the game myself. Ubisoft gave me a review code. I think the game is solid. I just think there's a little bit of crustiness here or there that could have been shaped up just a bit more if they focused on the Switch platform, but I'm hoping that they go forward with it and they do bring another game out, and maybe they do focus on Switch first and it gets ported over to other platforms, but we'll see what goes down with the game. But I do feel that there's a lot of potential. The gameplay is very fun. So what are your thoughts on Immortals Fenyx Rising? Have you checked it out on Switch or other platforms? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you hit that like button and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.